Before we dive into season 1, we're bringing you with a special prelude, season 0, Flirting with Design Technologies. It's a playful yet profound look at how technology is reshaping creativity, design, and innovation. Through a mix of fresh recordings, TEDx talks, and global design dialogues that we've had over the past years, we're revisiting key moments that define the evolution of digital design. From AI and parametric workflows to the future of education and fabrication, this season sets the stage for what's to come. Let's dive into Flirting with Design Technologies. Sound rolling, camera rolling, and action. Where does creativity come from? Do I find it when I'm using a particular tool? Or do I find creativity when I'm just sitting and thinking? Or do I find it when I'm actually holding a pencil and trying to sketch out something? And the answer to that usually is that every single exercise that I would do, be it a hand sketch, be it playing with technology A or technology B or C, everything will contribute to my creativity in different manners.
Welcome to Breaking Complexity podcast. I'm Deepti. I'm the host of episode 1, season 0, titled as Flirting with Design Technologies and Unfinished Love Story. And today we have Sushant, who's the curator of this podcast. So let's welcome Sushant. Hi, Sushant.
Hi, Viti. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah.
So, Sushant, this is episode 1, season 0. And we have a very unique title for this episode, Flirting with Design Technologies, an Unfinished Love Story, where we are going to explore the relationship between design and technologies and how these two, when they come together as one, shape the future.
Right. So I think that's something we've been doing for many years now. And I like to quote it like that we're actually flirting with design technology. And that's something we've been doing right from the beginning of, the studio and what we've been doing before that as well. And I've had a long-standing relationship with technology, I would say. And I always feel that technology, is sort of something you're in a relationship with technology. You're using it as a tool, as a facilitator to do your tasks, to create something. And you have a sort of a turbulent relationship with it at times. And there are times where you're really using it to the right potential. So it's pretty much like exploring it, you know, through and through. And that's pretty much what we've been doing. And also, I would like to, give a bit of context to the podcast since you mentioned about the creation of the podcast as well. So the Baking Complexity podcast is something which we sort of conceptualize, a long time back where we wanted to have these kind of candid conversations about design technology to break down the complex things. A lot of work that we actually do is pretty complex and is pretty complicated. So we have to simplify it for anyone to understand that, and not just for others to understand, for us ourselves also to understand and decode the process of it, to be able to relate to it, to be able to make sense of it, and that's something which we do very often. So the first season, which is Flooding with Design Technology, season 0 as we call it, and there is a reason why we don't call it season 1, we call it 0, because what we do is all about computation, and computationally numbers always start from 0. So that's like something which a lot of people don't relate to, because computationally when you're doing coding, when you write algorithms, the numbers start with 0. So this is the inaugural episode, inaugural season. uh, and yeah, pretty excited about the first episode where we sort of decode the complexity and talk about our flirtation with design technologies.
So, Sushant, we know you are a pioneer when it comes to computational design. So, where are you on your design journey? Do you remember any moment when you realized that technology would completely change the way we design?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because, the role that technology plays in my life is very, very personal actually. That's not something which is a part of my professional journey. It was a part of my personal journey actually before it became a part of my professional journey. So I would, recall right when I was a kid and I was used to have a lot of play around with technology in different ways. Like I think right from the time when I was introduced to a computer, like so I was like 12, 13 years old. I mean, right at that time when I had a personal computer, I used to have a lot of softwares to try out. I used to have a lot of different tools that I was trying out. So I had this knack of using technology. I had this knack of opening the PC, understanding the hardware, understanding the software, and really playing around with it. So there was a lot of time spent as a kid with technology. I have always been intrigued with what technology can do, whether it comes to any kind of electronics or any kind of gadgets. That's always been intriguing, right? So that has had a big, an impact on me as a person. So I've always loved technology, I've always explored technologies in different ways. Cut to the time when I, started pursuing architecture. Obviously, technology for us was more about the kind of softwares that we can use. So I was exploring our new tools and softwares. I remember often I would go and have a conversation with my seniors. What kind of softwares do you use? What kind of tools do you use? Because we were all hand drafting and sketching that time at the early stages. So I was really intrigued with what tech can do. And I was mostly fascinated with whatever works that I was exposed to globally. I used to be very intrigued with how are they creating such complex forms and shapes. So that's where the complexity and the interest towards complexity started to happen. So I took that very seriously as a mission to understand, to decode that complexity for me to understand first. And that's when the journey actually started of playing with technology and understanding technology. And starting with softwares, let's say, I started to explore softwares a little too early to see what they can do, how it can help me in my projects, my college projects, let's say. And I often remember I used to do things like I would rather use a computer to draft something than, we used to call it topo. So we used to like trace the sheet by hand. I'm sure people do that now as well, but that's what we used to do. Uh, just to because the submission was a part of a hand drafting exercise, let's say. But I would use the computer to facilitate the process. What I learned over the years is that yes, technology, if you use it smartly, can actually do wonders. Till the time you don't give the command to technology, you don't give technology to play with you. So you have to play with technology rather than technology playing with you, which is very interesting, conceptually, because most of the times we are played by technology right now. Even if you look at today's scenario, we are not controlling social media, for example. Social media is controlling us. Our data is, that's a different topic and trajectory altogether. But the whole idea is that we have to understand that how do we play with technology rather than technology playing with us. So to be able to do that and to be able to be in that position to do that, you have to understand technology to its core, which is where I strictly believe that understanding technology is very important. And when it comes to design, the kind of tools that we use, the tools will keep on changing over a period of time. The technologies and tools that I was using 10 years back, I was not using 5 years back, and I'm not using them now. And the kind of tools that I'm using today, I know for a fact that I will not be using it 2 years down the line also. Something else will come in. How do I adapt to that to that change is what is critical. So when we design something, we are not focused on what technology we're using, but we have sort of developed a mindset, I would say, wherein we are using technology to, I would say, not to its best potential, but to its larger potential. And a lot of times we end up exploring things which conventionally you would not do with technology. So I can give the very recent examples of using AI, for example. So of course, AI has really branched out into different scenarios. The way we use it, uh, you know, uh, is through different means and in different ways and different stages of a project. And then if we talk about other technologies like computational design, parametric design, algorithmic design, all of these technologies are not standalone technology which you can just use and design something with. These are something which can have to help you facilitate your process of creativity. So that takes us to the discussion about creativity. How do you become creative? Where does creativity come from? That's a question that I keep on asking myself often, that where does creativity come from? Do I find it when I'm using a particular tool? Or do I find creativity when I'm just sitting and thinking? Or do I find it when I'm actually holding a pencil and trying to sketch out something? And the answer to that usually is that every single exercise that I would do, be it a hand sketch, be it playing with technology A or technology B or C, everything will contribute to my creativity in different manners. It's about how I actually end up, if going by the title of the podcast, how we are flirting with technology of different kinds in different ways. Because I think that's what gives us an edge where it comes to being creative and innovative. Because innovation is somewhere hidden under these layers of technology and creativity. So, how we have to sort of churn them out based on the project, based on what we're doing, is something what we try to do with technology. So, uh, where are we currently in the scheme of things? I feel that we are at a very early stage of using technology. A lot of times we find a lot of resistance from the outside world, be it the clients, be it the project base or whatever, which sort of hold us back sometimes of using technology to its full potential. So I still think that we use like technology to 10% of its potential. 90% is still untapped and unexplored, which is what we are really excited about to keep on exploring. And that is our infinite goal to keep chasing, actually.
Sushant, I heard you speak about technology isn't just a tool but a mindset shift in one of the TEDx talks that you delivered some time back. So let's just revisit that thought for a moment.
Well, scaling up the ladder, let's look at a city, an urban system. Here's a very interesting tool developed by an American company, Urban Data Modeler, which uses various parameters scientifically. Parameters like the city bylaws, the building heights, FAR requirements, climatic data, wind directions, road networks, and any kind of data that can be quantified. And we can use that to design a city. And for me, a city designed through such a method is more likely to be a smart city than how we evaluate a smart city in India and how we are designing it. And designs like these can transform the way we live and work in future. Now imagine if you're a designer, you know the climatic efficiency of a building right at the first step when you're starting to design. Imagine knowing the weight of the building or the cost of material while you're designing it when you sketch out a concept. That saves a lot of time. Or even imagine living inside a building that automatically changes shape to control the temperature and light inside the building with changing times and seasons. That is smart. And having these tools is the power in your hands. And this is power to innovate. And technology plays a key role here. And since I mentioned the designs which are futuristic, this is not the future. This is all happening today and has happened in the past. So let's stop shying away by saying and calling things futuristic. We have to do these things now. They're happening all around the globe. In fact, majority of designs happening today with the top designers across the globe demonstrate a use of computation in big or small ways.
So now in 2025, do you think that the industry has really embraced this mindset or are we still flirting with it?
Well, I mean, straightforward answer is still flirting with it, I would say. We still haven't really developed that kind of a mindset, I feel. However, there has been a very quick change that has happened recently in the last 2 years with the way that people have uh, responded to different technologies. So the mindset has been shifting. There were times, let's say 20 years back, people were very, very reluctant to understand about technology and how to really embrace that in different spaces and projects. And slowly over a period of time, the mindset has changed. So people have really adapted well to the changes. Uh, the mindset change has happened. It's also to do with how we as designers look at technology. You know, uh, 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 the problem with technology is that a lot of times we want to find a lot of shortcuts through technology. And that is the biggest problem I find. Because we expect technology to do magic. Technology is not magic. Technology cannot do magic. Technology can help you create your magic. That's the mindset that needs to be there. So what happens right now is if I'm given any sort of a technology, I would think that can I do this with it? Can I do that with it? Rather than thinking that what is it the technology is meant for? And if I can use that in my workflow or whatever I'm doing or not. You know, giving you a simple example, I can quote something like how AI is very, very recent now. So everybody's trying to use AI. So I've often found a lot of people thinking that, okay, can I do this with AI? Can I do that with AI? Without understanding how does AI work. And that is a problem because we are not educated well enough about technology right now. And the speed at which technologies are, speeding up and evolving and coming into our workflow and ecosystem is absolutely bizarre. And that is causing a lot of stir. And it will continue to cause a lot of stir till the time we have formal systems of educating people about technology, bringing in the awareness. A simple thing like Meta has forced everyone to use AI now. It's on your WhatsApp, it's on your Instagram, it's on your Facebook, it's on your LinkedIn, everywhere. Right? These tech companies literally forced people to use AI, whereas we have not been educated of what AI is, how does it work, what is a language model. Nobody understands all of these things. But yes, people will understand there's something called ChatGPT. There is something called DeepSeek, for example. Right? But we need to understand beyond that. And I think that mindset shift needs to start happening now within the profession and within outside the profession also in general. We have too much of expectations from technology. So, from when I spoke about it, possibly how the mindset shift needs to happen to how it is happening now, I think we are at a good place of evolution. And, but there is a long way to go, I would say.
So, Sushant, you seem so passionate about technology. So, I am very, very curious to know what are your expectations from technology?
Oh, that's a very interesting question because while I talk about that people expect a lot about technology, a lot from technology, I haven't actually given it a thought ever that what do I expect from technology, honestly. But now that you ask me that and I start to think over it, I feel technology is going a little too fast. I believe the evolution of technology, the evolution of tools, specifically in terms of how we are exposed as architects to it, it's going a little too fast without we getting enough time to comprehend what the technologies are on around. So I feel that a lot of uh, wrong expectations come out of people from technologies because we are not well informed about technology. And I think it may be a personal choice or it may be a you know a question of interest if somebody is intrigued with technology. I personally am very intrigued with technology and I love to try different technologies, whatever new software, whatever new tools I come across, which I feel can be a part of my day to day living and my workflow of design, I would try to test it out. So, my expectation is that yes, it should make things simple. And that's pretty much where the breaking complexity part comes in. That technology should serve like a facilitator to break down complexity into simple parts, simple enough that we as humans and our volatile mind can comprehend with it. And that is what my expectations are, if I say it in simple words. Because it needs to break down the complexities that are around us in our design process, which need to break down into simple things. I can give you an example about if I'm sketching something, you know, and I want to change and create variations of that sketch. I can now use AI to track my sketch and then create iterations of that, for example. So it's serving beyond its expectations. I never thought we'd be able to do that with technology, for example. If I'm using a tool which can allow me to, analyze the daylight inside a building, my expectations are that yes, it should do it much more quicker to save me more time. But then if I understand technology deeply and understand the computational process behind it, it will give me an answer that I can't expect the computer to work that fast. But then there are other technologies like AI, which are completely sweeping away the speed of computation, and people are going to be having uh, expectations which may not be met. And if your expectations are not met, you get away from it usually. That's how things work at times. So it's very important for technology to sort of help us to break down the complexity into simple parts. And that's pretty much, I feel, where it becomes, very helpful. And in terms of our design practice, also, I believe technology plays a key role in shaping up what we do. It allows us to think beyond what we can conventionally think about. So, something as simple like if I can comprehend 100 shapes and the computer can process 1,000 shapes, I would rather leverage the computer's capability to process 1,000 shapes and geometries to help me go from 100 to 1,000. But I will not touch technology when I'm at step 1 or 2. I will only do that when I'm at step 100, when I've created something using my own conventional systems. So technology has that kind of a role, I would say.
So now that I know that technology plays a very important role in your architectural practice. So I'm very curious to know what kind of technology, what kind of tools do you use in your own design process that helps you make the process quicker.
Yeah.
And quicker.
So there are a lot of secret weapons, I would say, which I won't spill out right away. There are a lot of secret weapons that we have developed over the years, I would say, where we have developed a lot of workflows and tools and algorithms, if I put it simply, which allow us to speed up the process of designing, which sometimes allow us to speed up the process of evaluating a design, and thereby allowing us to rationalize and optimize a design. Now, when I say design, it's a very generic term. It could be a facade, it could be an art installation, it could be a building that we're designing. It could be like designing a 100-story building and we're trying to optimize and maximize the floor plate area with respect to the FAR, uh, you know, all sorts of norms that we can put in. So there are various ways in which we end up using these secret weapons, I would say. Many of these weapons are not secret anymore. I would say there are only a few things which we end up using in a very proprietary way. Uh, but I think if I talk of the general tools, obviously we thrive on using Grasshopper, which is a visual scripting tool, which allows us to help design much more quicker while analyzing and controlling the data and geometry. This is something which I teach in my programs like Smart Labs and Rat Lab Education as well. But I think overall, Grasshopper is the center of our ecosystem, I would say. Around that, obviously, there are the scripting tools and coding that we end up doing to generate certain algorithms depending on the project. And there are a lot of times where we rely on something as simple as AI as well. When I say as simple, I don't really mean AI is simple, but there are some very simple and quick to use AI tools that we started to integrate now to speed up the process. Even if you just, look around a studio as well, most of the team members are using one or the other AI tools, either to speed up the process of writing, either to speed up the process of creating presentations or to visualizations and renders. And as long as they use it in the right manner, uh, we are okay with it. And obviously, there are times when we don't even have to push the technology to its limit. So these tools are, different computational tools, but centered around Grasshopper. That's been a constant tool throughout the last, 12, 13 years, I would say.
Mhm. So, so I must say, people who are watching this episode will find this information very helpful, especially a new set of uh, aspiring, architects and designers who look up to you every single day because they see you as one of the people to become in the near future. So they will definitely find this information very, very
Yeah.
informative.
No, I mean, And as much as they will find the information very informative, I would also like to say that to anybody aspiring to use technology is don't end up training yourself to learn one technology or one tool. You have to keep upgrading. And that is where the question of mindset comes into the picture. That how do you develop that mindset of innovation wherein you have to keep innovating? So for us also as a studio, the goal is not to use as many technologies as possible. Our larger goal, which is the infinite goal, as I like to say, is to chase innovation. So there are two kinds of goals. Let me just make it very simple and clear over here. There are two kinds of goals. We might have a finite goal and then you have an infinite goal. Now, a finite goal is something, let's say, I want to build this project, and I will spend the next few years getting the project or building it and being a part of it. Great. Once it's done, what next? That's the question you need to ask yourself. So it's a finite goal. Or I want to win a cricket tournament, for example. And I would practice, I would play hard, and then like I will not win, I will fail, I will learn, I will try again. Eventually I'll win the tournament, for example. That's a finite goal. What am I doing beyond that? So the best of the people, let's say I picked upon sports as an example, as an analogy. Let's put sportsmen as an analogy as well. In this context, that the best of the champions, the best of the leaders who have delved, really flourished in the sports profession as well, are not chasing a record, are not chasing a trophy. They are chasing excellence, because of which they win trophies. It's a very similar thing. That is a mindset that we need to have as designers also. That we don't have to chase that, okay, I want to build 100 projects. I want to build a project in this city or that city. Obviously, we have those aspirations. Those are finite goals. The infinite goal, which keeps us driven always, is to chase innovation. And I don't think there will ever be a time when I can say, now we have cracked it. Now we have done the most innovative project. Because only the time when we do it, we realize that there is so much more to do. In fact, in our practice, we have sort of a rule, which is like an unsaid rule that we follow, is that in every project, we try to do one thing which we have never tried before. That's our way of being innovative. Somebody else may have tried, but we have. So we'll try that. And we have to chase for another thing which nobody has ever tried. So it's a constant play around between these two parameters. And the second one is an infinite goal. So that keeps us going. That's it. That is a dive.
So, Sushant, now that you have mentioned about the mindset shift, can you help us break down the innovation mindset for our viewers?
So I don't think when I started off, I thought of it as an innovation mindset, honestly. And that's the thing about when you're trying to do something, when you're trying to chase innovation, or when you're trying to chase an infinite goal of innovation. I don't think in that moment you realize that this is what you're trying to do. But obviously, when you like look back and introspect and try to see, how you sort of follow a certain path or a certain journey, uh, you're actually trying to chase innovation. So I don't think there's been one formula that I can say that this is how the innovation mindset works. But I think it's a small little things which one can do, which act on the larger things. I can give you an example from a very recent book that I read, which is called The Compound Effect. Now, Compound Effect talked about how small things, small actions towards things start to compound into larger effects. It is usually a term which we use in finances. That okay, you put your money and let it compound and grow over a period of time. Because if I'm putting, let's say, 100 rupees and it is growing my interest of 10% per annum. So after 1 year, it's 110 rupees. So next year, you're not putting 10% on 100, you're putting 10% on 110. And that's how it works. So that compounding effect, you know, is what drives change. So I often started to think about that in the actions that I can do in my life to bring about a positive change, which are these small little things, which is where the innovation mindset comes into the picture. And when you're actually chasing innovation, you have to train your mind to do a lot of things. One of the main things is to uh, get, don't get too bothered about the small little issues that you find on that journey, firstly. That is extremely important. And that is not something that all of us are born with. It's a skill. We get irritated with things, for example. There are things which can bother us, right? If things don't work. Because if we start to get trapped in those little things, the larger picture loses its vision. So, an innovation mindset or a mindset which is actually chasing innovation needs to look at the larger process and the larger goal that you're chasing and only focus on that. So, it's a lot about focus, zoom in and zoom out. So, you got to zoom in. And a very interesting quote that I can mention is micro speed, macro patience. So, at a micro level, you have to have a speed of doing certain things. But at a macro level, you have to have a patience. A lot of people underestimate what they can do uh, uh, in 10 years, and they overestimate what they can do in 1 year. And that's the problem of things. And that's where the balance of speed and patience comes into the picture. So, an innovative mindset would look into small little things which can create a compounding effect, and which is what we try to do in our day to day life and our work as well. So, when we are having a bad day with a project, let's say we had a bad client meeting, client did not like what we are designing, for example. Let's contextualize this back to architecture and philosophy. So, when we are trying to talk about a project, pitching in something and it gets rejected, what do you typically do? How would you respond to it? The first human response would be that why is everyone not understanding what we're trying to? That's the first output that you will get in your mind. And that's how we always used to get as well. Over a period of time, we started to question that why are we not able to crack it? And why are those 10 people not understanding what we're doing? Because if it is not serving those 10 people or 100 people rather, it is not meant to be. Then that is not innovation. Innovation can't be something the world does not need. It's a mix of a lot of things. A mix of things like what you can be good at, what the world needs, and what can drive your passion. So all of these things sort of combine into a central focal system where innovation mindset lies. So while there is no one definition of an innovation mindset, I think the key lies in the larger things, putting your focus on the larger things. What are you trying to chase? 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. And that gives you a better purpose and a direction. And yeah, so in that process, you have to get away with a lot of things, get used to the failures, uh, and try to learn as much as you can from a failure. So, talking about a project also, when we know that we have not gotten it right, it took us a lot of time to say that to ourselves that we didn't get it right. Our first reaction used to be like, why isn't the other person sitting across the table not able to get it? Why can't you see innovation? Rather be reflected back to us. Why is our innovation not convincing enough? The moment you bring that shift of mindset, that's where you will start to focus on your energies and your focus on what you're doing. And I think that's a key for innovative minds, I think.
So, Sushant, we have seen your works and cross parametric architecture, digital installations, and fabrication. So, how has computational design allowed you to work across these multiple tools?
So computational design is sort of at the crux of what we do, So even if we are designing a facade system, or if we are creating an art installation, or we are, designing a house, or we're designing a factory, or we're designing a commercial building, whatever we're doing, computational design sort of remains at the core of the techniques of how we create things and how we do things. So I feel computation obviously plays a very important and pivotal role in shaping the kind of creativity and innovation that we're trying to do. So And for us, computation is like a scaleless entity, which sort of helps us to create a small art installation to a piece of furniture, to a large building, to a building's facade, to a, right from a shopping center to a mall, to a stadium, whatever we're designing, computation is at the core of it. So that's the process that we follow. That's the technique that we use to create things. So be it, an iconic set of facades that we're designing, or some residential buildings that we're doing, some skyscrapers that we're working on, all of it sort of integrates and centers around computational design. So computational design is sort of the experimental layer for us, which is where we inculcate our laboratory culture. So at our studio, it's more of a laboratory culture where we want to experiment, we fail, we understand where we fail, and we improvise and we keep on improving till we hit innovation. That's the whole idea. So always it is about how do we experiment, and what does that experiment teach us. So we might do an experiment at a small scale, but that might help us not in that small scale project, but in another large scale project. This is where our secret weapons, which I mentioned, start to come into the picture. That we end up creating these tools and algorithms which allow us to create something as unique and small as an art to something as large and iconic as a facade. But it's the same algorithm being used for both of them. This is where our own workflow and technology comes into the picture. So I think it's all about a mix of things that we do with the underlayer of experimentation. So I think that's pretty much a laboratory culture that we're trying to inculcate and evolve.
So, can you help us explain computational design using one of the examples to make the whole idea around computational design easy for the viewers to understand?
Right. So computational design, if we go with the basic definition of it, is basically how we use computers to design. Right. Something, if you dig down the complex part of computation, it's basically using computers, which all of the designers are doing in their own ways. It's just that the kind of tools that we end up using are slightly more advanced and are capable and have the potential to do a little more than what conventionally you would do. And all of these tools, computational tools, are very experimental in nature, very evolving. It's grown in the last 10-15 years, where the community of computational designers have created so many new tools and workflows, helping each other out. It's a very open kind of a community. And that's pretty much where it all comes together, for the community, I would say. So, I think if I talk about a particular project, uh, I can mention about a facade where we sort of trying to create a unique language of geometry. We were playing around with curves, and the project is called tweening curves. Where we designed a facade where we use a tweening methodology. Now, tweening is basically a mathematical way of transitioning from one curve to another, or one line to a curve. So we just use that, and it is a term which is widely used in animation. So how we use that mathematical system and geometric system to create an algorithm that allowed us to create that facade, how we could extract different information about each part of that facade geometrically for taking it into the factory for fabrication, and then creating the sequence in the assembly system which can be then translated onto the site. So this entire process, combination played a different role. First, in conceptualization process, to decode a mathematical principle into a geometric principle. Secondly, to create a workflow for digital fabrication and conventional fabrication as well. And third, to create an assembly system, which is a conventional system followed at any site. So we just break down these parts into three simple processes, and computation plays a different role in each stages. A very contrary way of looking at computation is, conventionally I would say, is that computer can help you solve everything from A to Z, which is not how it works. You have to use a different kind of a computation, or use that technology to help you go from A, B, C, D. But going from D and E, you might need another kind of a tool. This is where how we curate technology. and how we integrate technology in our projects. So the focus is not to how well we can use technology. The focus is where is technology required, in which part of the project, and in what capacities, and we try to use that.
So, this actually reminds me of a conversation you had in London way back in 2020 with Arthur Mamou-Mani, where you both discussed about how parametric design isn't just a technique but a philosophy.
Yeah, in 2020, I was in London and I had a candid conversation with Arthur Mamou-Mani. He's the founder of Mamou-Mani Architects, practicing out of London, working on the intersections of design and technology with very interesting architectural and spatial projects. So we had some interesting dialogues with him with respect to the global perspectives, which is a chapter in my upcoming book, Filling the Void: Rise of Technology in Architecture, which is currently in press, should be published very soon as well. But yeah, let's relook into that conversation where we explored candidly about design and technology.
So from there to now, like how do you see the shift of the intervention of technology, let's say? Because, I mean, of course it has a great impact on the things that you're designing, you're 3D printing this thing, you're kind of fabricating that, you're making this printing this table. You may always have preconceived notion at times. At least we as a studio, sometimes we do get into that zone where we have preconceived notion, where we know what we want to create, and we try to weave a story around that sometimes. I mean, to be very honest, we do not say that often. But yeah, so so because of that, I think there's a lot of criticism as well from a lot of people who don't want to use technology. That is it really defining your output? Our usual response to that is there is always something that will affect your output. You need your conscious knowledge or.
So what are they criticizing?
People usually, at least in the Indian context, they would not want to use technology because they think in a very superficial way that it's going to take our jobs, and if you're designing something, you have a particular form or a design which is preconceived, and maybe it's too complex and it wasn't required in the first place. So it's always a balance that we need to kind of have at times. I don't know if you face a similar reluctance of people or clients.
I mean,
I'm sure this is a very different context to.
I see what you mean. I think it's very important to connect to the general public. Like, we often as architects stay within our field, but the world is big and like there is so many people and they are not necessarily aware of anything that's going on. Yeah, parametric design or just design. Like we often revere great architects and they're like, look Corber, woo-hoo. And like, I think we're completely, to be honest, disconnected from the general public. And so when you have someone like Mary Oxman or even your Ingles that go out there to speak at TED or you know very well, like people are like, whoa, so that's what it's about. And they don't even use the terms, parametric or whatever. But what they can do very well is, like you say, read a story or tell something very simple to people that says, look, design can make you happy. Good design
Experience basically. So
exactly. It's an experience. It's emotional. You see it and you think, wow, that makes me that's inspiring me. That's making me happy. And so I think we're so disconnected that in general, I think that the tools we're using are helping us create designs that are more natural, that feel more natural. That means that people, when they see them, it reminds them of the flower they might have seen. It reminds them of the forest.
pattern from nature.
Yeah, I think that's the deeply paradoxical thing. Is the more you use computers in a way that is sort of bottom up, and the more you end up with natural-looking things. That's a paradox, and I think that this paradox is actually linking us more and more with people.
Right.
And that's really good for us because I think we were deeply disconnected.
I'd also like the listeners to look back into one of the talks that I had with Theodore. So in London in 2022, I was with Theodore Spyropoulos, who's the director of Architectural Association's Design Research Lab, and as a director of AADRL, which has been one of the prominent programs and institutions for advocating design technologies at the forefront. I find myself very fortunate that I happened to have a conversation with him about education, technology, architecture, and he was kind enough to show me around the design research lab, the experimentations that were being done by the students over the years, and the innovation that was actually coming out of the lab. So yeah, some very interesting conversations exchanged. Let's take a little snippet into that conversation as well, as this was a part of the global perspectives, which is a part of the Filling the Void Rise of Technology in Architecture book, which is going to be released very soon as well. And coming from the context of India, which is what I would set this dialogue on now, there have been a lot of people from India like pursuing AADRL for a very long time, actually. And that's something that I see. I've been educated in India as well. There are a lot of people and the aspirations to come to the AA primarily for DRL because of the impact that it's had. And, so how do you see the role of, let's say, people coming from India, students? How are they responding to the kind of agendas that you have set over here?
I think, for me, I've always had a quite close affinity for India because, in some sense, I think culturally it feels somehow close to me from a kind of Greek context. I had the opportunity of traveling there with the director of the AA at the time, Brett, and Sajay, who has been former students. We had the chance to give 4 lectures and went for different cities in 5 days and was kind of exposed to a lot of things which I kind of had an intuition about through my students, through the people that were close to me, but also through people like Bibi Doshi and others. On the occasion I had a chance to meet at the talk and speak to, I think, what it means to actually create a very context-responsive concept of architecture.
Right.
I think he had certain challenges of bringing a form of modernism to India, and I think I have to be honest, before I went to India, I was told that maybe people will not be very responsive to what I'm saying and the old guard to be antithetical to it. But the reality is that it was the opposite, because I think I spoke about it not as technology, not as things that should be done, but things that need to be somehow absorbed within a culture.
Right.
And really to be synthesized in a way that works for people. I think that that's very important. I'm not really interested in a generic kind of idea of digital design or parametric design or generic anything. So I think that if you invest yourself deeply into things, then actually with something more primal, and it manifests itself. If you collaborate with people and you have certain discussions, those conversations can also really shape the way that you see the continuity of place with the advantages of what you've learned.
Right.
So I saw India as a very open but challenging environment, meaning like the young people and some of the older guard, I think, were very responsive to language. I think also because there was a respect to what was there. From stepwells to Kang to Court to whatever, to much more traditional architecture. For me, I mentioned it to some of my students here, there was a demonstration of a lot of the models of organization that there is a form of swarm urbanism, literally, and the ways that people move and the traffic patterns and that. So for me, it was a very enriching time there. But I also felt that it had certain problems.
Right.
Which was, I think, something that I saw in Asia in general, which is repeating a lot of the mistakes that I can say has happened in Europe and for sure has happened in the United States. With a kind of brutal, accelerated form of infrastructure that was not really responsive to kind of future vision. The idea of progress is something that needs to be digested, and I think people really need to understand what that means by that.
Right.
But culturally, I felt a strong connection, and I felt that there was a general sense of curiosity and wonder, which I felt was I'm also very positive. So my feeling is that there is a lot of opportunity.
Right.
Not necessarily just to come and study here. This for me is a very personal decision, but I think today things are very open. I try to make everything as public as possible so that regardless if you have the means to come here or not, you at least could be exposed to it. So if you know that things exist, then I think it's up to you to be motivated to educate yourself. As much as I love the AA, I have no interest in marketing. Very school. I do have an interest of creating a place where, like some of those graduates have gone back,
Right.
have started their own practices, are teachers.
Right.
I thought that they're doing it in a positive way. But I feel motivated by creating people, giving people the opportunity to find something for themselves.
Right.
Try to do that for someone else.
Right.
So, we all know AI is the future of design intelligence. So, how do you see the next 5 years coming along? And what is the most exciting thing about computation design from your perspective?
So AI is definitely sort of been safe to be the next big thing for a long time now, and it is sort of proving to be as well. Uh, so I feel the next 5 years, it's become very difficult to predict about 5 year gaps. Actually, unfortunately, the speed at which the technology has been moving and evolving, we can't predict what's going to happen next year. Honestly, that's pretty much how technology is sort of shaping the world and is becoming an integral part of our ecosystem, I would say. Uh, but yes, in terms of architecture and design, I definitely feel that more acceptance to AI and more education in the realm of AI is extremely important and is going to happen because we're not left with any other option. If we have to use it smartly, we have to be a part of it and we have to sort of embrace it in the right manner. So I think that has become extremely important. And over the next few years, I definitely feel that the profession is going to evolve with more AI assisted workflows that we'll have. Uh, Currently, people are developing their own workflows, but sooner, maybe in a couple of years, we will have these pre-programmed AI assisted workflows as a part of the process, wherein we are using AI to design certain aspect of it, and the role of designer will keep on changing. So it's pretty much like that. If today we are working on resolving a plan, uh, we might not put time on resolving the plan. We might put time on reviewing the plans, which is done by AI assisted workflows, which have designed it for you, but not by itself, by based on the input that you have given. So it's a more of integrated workflow with AI. So it's all about training your AI models. And I feel it's becoming the very important aspect when we start to train our AI models to learn and do things and make it in a certain manner, which is what we're trying to focus towards. So I feel that in the next couple of years, definitely AI assisted workflows are going to sweep over, our workflows, and we will make a better use of it. What we're doing right now. At the same time, I also know a lot of threats because of using AI that our creativity can sort of fizzle out, and it is extremely important to hold that balance between your creativity, your innovation, your originality while using AI assisted workflows. So I think that balance is something which we need to strike. And I feel that, if there are good, um, you know, academic systems which are embracing these workflows and educate people about it, people will make a better use of it and the profession will continue to evolve, I would say. So yeah, I think next 5 years, I'm really looking at much more integrated AI workflows and also people starting to accept technology much better than they have accepted it in the past.
Okay, so do you think people should flirt with AI more or not?
Oh, that's an interesting thing. Going back to a theme of the conversation.
Going back to the theme.
Yeah. So, yes, absolutely. I mean, that's totally yes for that. Yes, one needs to flirt with AI, and flirting is actually the right term. So, don't take it, too serious, but just flirt with it right now. Understand what it's all about. And I think that's extremely important for us as designers to do. Because if we don't end up doing that, we'll start having fears from AI and technology. So it's extremely important to keep flirting with design technologies, and AI is a thing to flirt with now.
Yeah.
In one of my, recent TEDx talks, I mentioned about smart education, and we sort of made a prediction of how AI has to be integrated into the workflows. So yeah, let's take a look into what I spoke about in that particular talk.
How do we create smart cities? We need to have smart design education. So this is where our mission started, to create smart education. And I truly believe in Nelson Mandela's quote, which I would share with you, is the education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So at one end, we are trying to create a top-down approach to change the industry in our own ways. At the same time, we required a bottom-up change of creating education, creating accessible education, which can change people who can create an impact by using technology. And this is where our mission started in the academia, where we started Rat Lab Education. This is back in 2015. And we started to question ourselves at the beginning that how smart is our education? And if we started to look back into how the situation was, 100 years back, in the education, this is what a classroom looked like 100, 150 years back. Surprisingly, this is what it looks like now, which is the interesting part, that no change has happened in the way we are educated. And this is where we thought, okay, let's start to use technology. Let's start to use technology in a way where things can become much more interesting. Of course, we induce technology. A student would have a similar kind of a feeling. If you get bored in the 1960s in a classroom, you get bored in front of a computer now on a screen. So we had to create something very interactive. So this is how we're trying to do this. We started creating these educational platforms and workshops across the country. And this is a time where I moved back to India to start bringing about a change. And this is the journey that we took to create education in computational design, which actually means design technology, if I talk in a generic sense, to create the education of design technology in India. Over a period of time, we did a lot of workshops, we did a lot of programs in different cities, in different countries. To name a few, I have them on the screen: London, New York, Milan, Tokyo, Taipei, Cairo, in Ukraine, Belarus, and it's still counting. And in cities in India across like New Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Chandigarh, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Coimbatore, Pune, and the list has been counting. So we started these 2-day programs and then slowly moved into a 6-month program as well. And through these workshops, this is all student work that you're going to see right now. Students who had very limited or absolutely no exposure to design technologies, and using technology, they were able to understand how to create meaningful spaces, complex things in a simple way. And this is all a product and the output of workshops. This was from Taiwan, for example. These were again few workshops I was involved in Taiwan back in this was 2014 actually, rather, where we were trying to understand different cultures and education systems. And again, you will see a lot of glimpses of workshops, programs we did. Pandemic started to hit us. We started an online program, which was absolutely global, where we could have tutors from different parts of the world teach students from different parts of the world and curated in India, basically. And through these programs, every year we have been creating more global platforms and communication. But we all still have this question at the back of our head, that how smart is our education? Are we getting smarter with our education? So 2017, we started the program. It was a pilot project for us. It's called Smart Labs, which was to create a hybrid program, which means we could have anyone in any part of the world be a part of the program and understand and learn technology over a 6-month period. So that allowed someone to actually not just getting exposed to technology, but also start to understand and apply technology in a hands-on process. The growth happened. It continued over a program where students were more involved. We created digital fabrication, performative design, interactive design, and students got more involved to learn about technology. Again, I would say students had zero exposure or very minimal exposure to technology before this became a part of these programs. And over the last 6 years, we have had 7 batches, about 150 students graduating out of this program who are creating an impact now in different parts of the world, in different cities of India, and creating more educational platforms and growing this plant forward. So it's actually about sowing the seeds that we started and how it is creating a bottom up change in the profession as well. And with these kind of innovative approaches, students are able to really change their directions, change the way in which how they want to bring in a change and impact, and they learn a global collaborative manner as well. Through these things, we of course look into 3D printing, augmented reality, virtual reality, and lots of things, and students end up producing these variety of fantastic work that they produce over a 6 month period. And so we're basically training young architects and students basically to create and understand technology, a change which we are able to bring in the professional world in this last decade, but doing the same thing through academia in a step by step process. This obviously has created a plethora of works, and now we have technology like artificial intelligence, which is at our disposal, which we can use to create these kind of interesting spaces. And these spaces we are able to create on the click of a button, literally, which is kind of crazy. So the interesting part is that back in the 70s, 1970s, we had the technology which could change our 80s. Back in the 80s, we had the technology which could change our 90s. Back in 90s, we had the technology which could change 2000s. But today, in 2022, we have the technology which can define our next 100 years. So it is very important that we get educated about these technologies. It is very important that we get adapted to these technologies and adopt these technologies in our workflows to create the sort of an impact. All of these visuals that you see right now are created by artificial intelligence through text prompts, which we are able to teach and introduce in our current program at Smart Labs. And this is the fascinating world in the way how architecture can actually be produced human assisted but computer generated. Now human has to assist here. There is computers are not replacing the humans. The role of humans has been just changing over this period of time. Now let's talk a little bit about what exactly have we managed to do. And so far in the last 7 years, we managed to train and educate about 3,000 plus students and professionals through 150 plus workshops and programs in about 25 plus cities in 10 countries.
Ishan, today you and I had a wonderful conversation. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, where our conversation led us to dive deeper into your journey with design technology. So, do you want to share any thoughts on where Breaking Complexity podcast fits into an evolving narrative?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as the title of our episode in an unfinished love story. So let me just take it from there. Uh, it is an unfinished love story. It is something that we've been flirting with technology for a while now. It's been almost 15 years now where I've been in my professional life using technology in different ways, and many years before that personally as well. So I think we are on a path and we are on a journey where we have to continue to chase our infinite goal of being innovative and being creative, and technology plays a key role in that. And I think the whole idea of these conversations and breaking down complex conversations into simple parts for anyone to understand and comprehend is something that we hope to do through this Breaking Complexity podcast, and something that I feel would hopefully help people, inspire people, and teach them and educate them towards the complexities of our world. So yeah, I'm really excited about the conversation that we had and looking forward to have many more such conversations of breaking complexity on this podcast.
So, before we end this episode, I would like to ask, has your love story evolved with design technology? Where are you in terms of your love story?
I think it's very hard to predict where it's going to go towards, but one thing is we are very certain about is that we will continue to play a lot with technologies. Uh, the kind of technologies will keep on changing, but at the core, we will keep on evolving and trying to use and test out as many technologies as possible, because that's something which is taking us closer to our infinite goal. And the moment we reach that goal, we have a larger goal ahead of that as well. So that keeps us going, and we are excited for the way forward.
You seem to be in love with design technology, and I must say that both you and design technology are not going to leave each other and stay together for the rest of your life. So I wish you all the very best in your future endeavors. Thank you for creating Breaking Complexity podcast, and I wish you all the very best from the bottom of my heart. And see you soon.
That's it for the episode of Flirting with Design Technologies. Season 0 has been about pushing creative limits, questioning technology's role in design, and embracing the complexity behind innovation. But we're just getting started. Season 1, Don't Play With My Curves, is coming soon, where we take complexity to a whole new level. Stay tuned and follow Breaking Complexity podcast and subscribe us on all the platforms. We'll see you in the next episode.